Want some candy?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
I hear you looking for candy, man, bitch.
Give me some sugar, baby. Like scary movies.
Uh-huh. Want some candy?
Tired now, though. I don't know if we can do an episode.
We'll make it quick.
Well, that's an intro.
There you go. What's up, Candy Killers? Welcome back to another episode of Monster Candy Podcast with Oubliette Sparks from Tsunami Bomb and myself, Screaming E from the Memphis Murder Men. And tonight we're going to cross some streams on an Argentinian movie.
We're going to subtitles.
We are going to subtitles. And that
you
movie...
read at least 10% of them.
That's being generous. The movie we're going to talk about tonight is Terrified. But before we get into all of that mess, it's time for some horror news, everybody. All right. I think we both got a little bit of horror news. Do you want to go?
Tiny bit.
Teeny tiny bit. And nothing
Smidge.
super exciting. You want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Go for it. You
All
haven't
right,
gone first in
Oobs.
ages, I feel like. So just go ahead and knock it out there.
You know what, Oobzilla? I'm going to go. I'm going to do it.
Cool.
I'm going to
Yep,
do
I
it.
said you could. So
You did,
go
and I'm
ahead.
going to.
Yep.
That's right.
Do it. Right.
All right. So there's a cool thing going on, and I love when Fathom Events do these things. Starting September 3rd through the 6th, They Live is going to be shown at your local theater, wherever the Fathom Events shows near you. And not only that, but September 10th through the 13th, Christine will be shown. So
Oh.
that's cool. I am a sucker for old movies being shown in theaters that I never got to see. So I will be going to that. Yeah, that'll be rad. The times always kind of suck, though. They're always either like 4 or 7. So there's like always a chance there's going to be people there. I would much rather be like 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, yes, that's the one I'm going to. But that is
Oh, yes,
not
people
happening.
will be there. And
Yeah.
when people show up, they make enough money to be able to do more events. It's like this crazy concept.
Yeah, it's true.
Or weird.
Just cater to me, God damn it.
Hapless
Anyone?
pigs.
Fuckers. I don't know. They Live. I love They Live, and I love Christine. So I'm super excited to see those both on the big screen. And I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. Hey,
So I've never seen Christine all the way through.
I can understand that.
Oh, I thought I was going to get judged.
No, I mean,
Way
it's
too easy.
it does get long in some parts, so I can see it. And it was one of those movies that was always on like the Sunday afternoon movie or the Thursday night movie. So like you see bits and pieces of, throughout your whole fucking childhood.
Right. I don't think I ever like sat to watch it and turned it off. It's just, flipping through the channels. I think I've probably seen most of the movie, but never actually
Yeah.
in
Like
a
it was
linear manner.
always on, like always.
Yeah.
Like once a month. I'm like,
No, I
Jesus
remember.
Christ. So,
And late night too.
Yep, for sure. So that was the most important part. The second horror news I got is NECA is kicking it off with some cool little toys. They're finally doing a Tom Atkins, a Halloween 3 Tom Atkins Dr. Chalice figure for all you little toy collectors out there. So that's fun. And I guess there will be an event. Or is it down at the Pasadena Convention Center, the 45 years of Halloween, 45 years of terror. So if you're down in Pasadena or you feel like traveling, they're going to have a little thing there from September 29th through the 1st of October. So that'll be fun. Hey, Tony. Hey, yo. What the fuck are you guys talking about over there?
Sorry, Two Turnt Tony just popped up.
There's a
I had no
two-turn
idea he was
Tony.
there.
Hey, Tony's everywhere. You know what I mean? So that's the one. The other one is the 2-pack of Puppet Master toys, Puppet Master figures, featuring the Jester and 6-shooter.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, that would be pretty rad. So for all the horror collectors out there, that'll be a few nice additions to anything you got going on in your little house. And that is the end of my horror news. What you got, Oobs?
So, I got two little tidbits. One, and this is interesting because I constantly, you see people on Facebook on these horror groups and they like post a fucking random picture from a movie and then everyone starts bitching about, what they think it
Yes.
should have been or, whatever. So quite often you see people post pictures of 13 ghosts. And almost every time they do, someone talks about how they wish there was a movie or TV show about the backstory of each of the ghosts. So I don't know that this will be that, but it was announced that a TV show with 13 episodes based on 13 ghosts is in production.
All
We're
right.
about to go in production. And so this little quote from one of the people working on it makes me think it might actually have to do with each of the ghosts in each episode. So it basically says every culture in the world has its ghost stories, and this reimagining of 13 ghosts will present as an international sampling of these supernatural tales. The ghost stories within each episodes will have their own stylistic look and feel that will be explored and influenced by each individual director. This makes our ghost vignettes stand out stylistically, and they set the theme for each episode. So
Sounds cool.
I mean, that could be cool. Yeah, I loved the Masters of Illusion that Showtime did. And I think it could be really cool, especially like if they really go deep with some of the lore and really stylize it. Who knows? But I found that kind of interesting.
I do like some backstories. They're always, or not always. Sometimes they can be really interesting. Sometimes they're really not. But
yeah, I'm wondering if they'll take any from actually from the ghosts in the other movies and apply them to international lore, or if they'll just go all out and just pick 13 kind of
random
stories from different areas, because it would be cool if they could kind of tie them in, especially for the people who have seen that and would be nostalgic. And honestly, for 1990s style movies and horror, I actually really like 13 Ghosts.
Yeah, it
was
one of the better ones for sure.
It had the silly shit and the awful dialogue, but the premise of it was really cool. I would much rather see a darker version of that, because you could do some cool ass shit with that house and the way it moved and let them out. If you cross that with a Hellraiser, not a new Hellraiser, you could cross that with an old Hellraiser.
You don't mean a pink, brightly colored, beautiful Hellraiser?
Why are you trying to trigger me right now? Or even if you cross that with something like The Collector,
right?
That kind of look, I think it could be very cool. Or even a Hostel too. There's things they could do to make it cool, or than it was.
Agreed.
But as far as a 90s hokey funny horror, it was cool. The ghosts were rad.
Speaking of 90s, we should probably do a 90s episode finally.
Have you never?
Mm-mm.
Well, we're about to do. No, that isn't 90s, is it?
No.
I think that's early 2000s. Maybe we should do a 90s series.
Maybe we could do that. But yeah, so
I know what you did last summer.
we started off with the 80s. Then we did the 50s. We did the 70s. I don't think we've done the 60s.
Oh, you just mean I get you an episode on the 90s.
On the decade, yeah. Or the 90s. 60s and 90s we haven't done yet.
See, but the 90s is hard, right? Because if you go in the beginning of the 90s, you have things like Misery, The People Under the Stairs, I don't know, some stuff that I feel still felt old, even Candyman. Then you go midway in the 90s and you're talking like The Craft.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a weird shift from mid 90s. Mid 90s feels more like early 2000s.
Well, but the 90s style of horror, I feel like, is that mid 90s stuff, like the
Yeah.
teenage. But I guess that is a lot of that's early 2000s. So it is kind of hard because, like, In the Mouth of Madness is one of my favorites, and that's mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And to
Yeah.
me, I wouldn't place that as like a 90s movie. Like, even the original It was 90s,
Yeah.
but it feels 80s.
Feels definitely like an 89.
I think of stuff like Urban Legend,
Mm-hmm.
like Scream, The Faculty.
Yeah.
I Know What You Did Last Summer, Leprechaun.
Yeah.
Like that is like 90s horror.
Definitely.
But even, I mean, like Army of Darkness was 90s too, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Early.
Early
Or
90s,
was it
yeah.
late 80s? Early
No,
90s.
early 90s, yeah. Yeah, it was weird that
Yeah.
the early 90s, a lot of those movies weren't even like they weren't quite 90s, but they weren't really 80s either.
Right.
There's like a few lost years in between the decades of like the mid
Yeah, it
90s
feels
and like
you
the late
should
80s.
just like slash half of 90s and throw it into the 80s and the other half and throw it into the 2000s
Does feel
and
like
just
that.
say we don't like early 2000s movies.
The 90s were a weird time, people.
They were. We were all very confused.
But anyway,
Yeah. The only other thing I have is and I think we may have mentioned it before, but I'm not positive. They're making a Killer Clowns from Outer Space video game, and
I think we
the
might have
company
mentioned
that
it
was
a little bit,
doing
but
it
yeah.
is got replaced, and
Oh.
they're actually now working with a couple companies that have a little bit more backing, so it may end up being cooler than it was.
Interesting.
But apparently it's going to be like a hide and seek game, which
That'd be
we've
cool.
seen with a lot of stuff.
Right.
Dead by Daylight is like that. I didn't realize the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre was. I downloaded it because it's part of free Game Pass right now. If you guys have Game Pass, you can get it. And I haven't played it yet, but I read the description that you either pick family or victim, and basically I think it's just like a cat and mouse sort of thing.
Right.
Which I really wish they would make more of an RPG or like full action storyline game, which maybe some of these have. I just don't have the patience to find out. But they posted a bunch of screenshots and a trailer, and it looks fucking creepy as shit.
Well, that's good.
And I've met them in person, so
So there, everybody.
I met them at Universal, and one kept honking my nose.
Oh.
And I didn't know you weren't supposed to touch the cast, and I've got pictures like hugging them all because I kept making them bear hug me. And there was like a couple foreign small women that were very scared of the whole thing and were screaming. And
But
a couple funny pictures.
you can't touch them, but they can honk your nose.
Yep. I didn't realize it until I was exiting out of the scare zone, and it was like, don't touch actors. And I was like, but they let me hug them, and they hugged me back.
Yeah.
And also technically, like it was really people in costumes, in case you guys don't know, and they had these like wire things that held their costumes out to make them look like fat clowns. So technically I wasn't touching them. I was touching costume and like a wire band. So
yeah. So
I'm sure
technicalities. I'm sure it was fine too.
But my nose was real and it got honked.
They actually did touch your nose. That's fucked up. But not fucked up. Because
it was interactive.
Yeah. As it should be. Can't have it one way.
Exactly.
Huh.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, I mean, that sounds cool. So I guess we'll see how it ends up turning out. It's weird that they, like, I wonder if they were in production and they were just like, hit the brakes.
I don't know. It doesn't really explain, but they had to be farther along. I mean, there's a trailer and apparently like some kind of demo. So I don't know.
But I guess it doesn't really matter.
No.
All right. Well, be on the lookout for that, everybody, if you like playing video games.
Yes.
Or else Oubliette will honk your nose.
Probably not.
But you never know.
But maybe. Yeah, you don't know. I do weird things. Especially if I'm uncomfortable. And chances are, whoever you are, you would make me uncomfortable. Sorry,
All right.
that's true.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's been. Honk. All right. So terrified. Now, a little backstory on this. So Oobzilla, as she does, says, "Hey, have you ever checked out this movie?" And I'm like, "Sure haven't. Sounds familiar though. I might have." It's like, "Well, it's on Shudder. You should check it out. It's like a ghost story." I'm like, "All right, cool. I'm down." And she's like, "Yeah, it's
Do you guys like when people tell stories and you're like right there? It's weird. Right?
And
on.
I'm like, "Yeah, all right, yeah, I'll get right on this. Let's go." So without even reading anything about it, clicking, getting ready to watch it, and then I realize, oh, this isn't in English. Oh boy. So I strapped myself in and watched.
Learn how to read.
Yeah, god damn it. And watched the Argentinian horror film Terrified. Do you want to read the little synopsis?
I mean, I don't know. It said it was from Mexico. Is it even going to be good?
I don't know. But here's a short one. When strange events occur in a neighborhood in Buenos Aires, a doctor specializing in the paranormal, her colleague, and an ex-police officer decide to investigate further. It's a very short, vague overview of the movie, but basically.
So, yeah, that's like not a great synopsis. So here's another one. There's like some weird shit happening in this neighborhood, right? And like people aren't thinking it's that weird, but it's weird. Like these people hit a dog and they're really sad because it died. And then they find out later the dog wasn't dead and it came back to life. And that seems like something they should celebrate. But a lot of these weird things are happening sort of compartmentalized. So nobody really knows the other weird shit people are going through. And during the weird shit that's happening, the police get called because, you know, there's deaths and things like that happen. And one of the people that gets called is this dude who I think was former police, right?
Maybe.
Former something. He's older, probably like either retired, close to retire, but he's like super into paranormal and weird shit. So he's gone to like all kinds of different conferences about shit like that. And he like looks over after he gets called to help, and there's this like old chick taking pictures, and he's like, holy fuck, this is this chick that was the speaker at a conference I went to. What is she doing here? So turns out one of the people that had weird shit happen to them sent stuff to her office. She didn't fucking believe him, so she didn't come out until it was too late. Now, old dude who should be retired, old chick, and then some other random old dude who showed up decided to spend the night in some freaky haunted houses, and stuff ensues. And that is the synopsis.
That's definitely something. So
I was trying to not give out anything away.
Yeah, it was directed by Damien Rugna, and I've never heard of him or anything that he's done, but it's a lot. He's done a lot of stuff.
Did something else for Shudder.
Yeah, he has 13 previous movies. So anyway, so what do we want to start with? We'll end on a good note. Let's start with the stuff we didn't like about it. Or do you want to start with the stuff we liked about it?
Well, you start with what you didn't like about it, because I can't think of anything I didn't like about it right now.
All right. Well, first of all, I didn't like that it was a foreign movie and had subtitles. So, when everyone should know this by now, that I do not like that. There very rarely is a movie. There's like 2 movies within the recent, I don't know, 15, 20 years. I mean, there's probably more, but one of them was Let the Right One In and Train to Busan. But it wasn't, I mean, there's dialogue in it, but it's not a whole lot. So this, I was like, oh, all right. There's already candy corns off for that. The main thing
there was a lot of dialogue in this, though. It was mostly visual. It
was, which again, why I didn't read a lot. I watched most of it. So, it is a very visual movie. So that was good. But
then maybe you didn't even know about the dog.
Yeah, I knew about that, but I was skimming through.
You did read.
I did read a little bit, but not a lot. Anyway, my biggest gripe, which definitely happens with movies now, but also with a lot of foreign movies, there's like the loss in translation type of like how they move the movie along. And for me, again, it's a problem with a lot of movies nowadays, is there was like a little too much story. I get what they were trying to do, and it was just clunky for me because there was a few different storylines that they were trying to like weave into each other, and I got what they were going for, but I just don't think it didn't resonate or like mesh well for me watching it. To me, I think it would have been a better like anthology, like have the separate stories kind of meet up at at the end,
Or
kind
like
of deal.
chapter it out.
Yeah,
I felt like they did though.
kind of, but it would
Just without the like stern like
yeah,
next up this
right.
guy, next up
It was
this guy.
this was like an entire movie, like an actual movie, whereas I would, if it was like chapters of like completely separate things, but then at the end all comes in together. Because when you were telling me it was mentioned on that what Shudder's 100 scariest moments or whatever, I remember that and I was like, oh shit, yeah, because it's the one with the boy gets hit by a truck and then he comes back and he's sitting at the table, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, I remember this from that. And that story, like that part of the story was creepy. And then it went on to become like a mystery, like a haunted house ghost mystery. And then there's the neighbor who had something
I loved it.
going on. And I'm like, wait, but what about the kid? They just put him in a fucking cooler in an ice box outside. The freezer. And it's just like, yeah. But then that all, comes back at the end with his mother. But it was just a little confusing for me and a little clunky as far as the execution. So that's what was bugging me about it the most, because there's some aspects like that particular aspect and the opening scene. You get the married couple, which was the first road I was going down. So I'm like, all right, this guy, his chick is getting fucking mutilated in the bathroom, and he's,
cool.
it was like which was, we'll get to the stuff we liked in a little bit. But yeah, it was kind of that Friday or A Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one kind of deal where his chick is getting
dragging the cat
murdered, all over the place, and he's like, what the fuck? So then he ends up being admitted or arrested. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so this is where it's going. And then it goes off into something else. Then it goes into the neighbor. I had to rewind it because I'm like, why does this guy look different? Because the rooms in the house look the same to me. And I'm like, wait, so he set up this thing to try and catch this entity, but he looks real different now. Is that the same guy? And I was like, wait, no, that's not the same guy.
They don't even look anything alike.
They don't. That's what I'm saying. I was like, because I missed the scene.
What's wrong with you?
I missed the transition scene to where the second guy, the neighbor, was like standing outside of something. You're
going to blame the movie because you missed the scene and weren't reading subtitles?
It was like a 30-second scene. I was like, wait, what the fuck? So yeah, then I got caught up. So then I'm going down that road. I'm like, all right, so this is what kind of movie it's going to be. It's telling different stories. Okay, I got it. But I just thought it was ending there. And then after that, it goes to the kid in the famous scene, the creepiest scene in the movie. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay, cool. Yeah, the scene is pretty creepy. And then it started like circling back to the other stuff. And I was like, oh man. All right. And then I was just along for the ride. But
the only thing that I could say I didn't like is that I wish some of the brutality continued through the whole movie.
Yeah.
Because it starts out with a real bang. And it definitely tones down after that. So I could see it losing people. But for me, I am a big fan of like Amityville Horror and
Mhm.
Poltergeist and all of those movies. So when like the kind of super like gory and then just like weird shit like subsides, it turns more into that. So I liked it. But I do have to say, like, even in the more toned down part, it still stayed weird. It didn't just turn into a ghost house movie. It reminded me of movies like In the Mouth of Madness, where you have moments like, wait, why are they like what the wait, hold on.
Right.
Like, do I need to rewind this? Like,
Yeah,
where did
exactly.
this just come from? Like, why is this happening? And I appreciate that. I watched it on a plane, so like I have real problems watching stuff on the plane. I get like 5 or 10 minutes in and just get sidetracked because I feel like I can't really concentrate in that kind of situation. In this movie, I just like watched, and same with subtitles. Like if it doesn't draw me in, I'm not gonna pay attention. But I have to say, like I read every one and watched it, and I really it kept me interested, and it's so funny because you wouldn't think. I mean, I guess you would. I don't know. It's just so different how foreign films can be. Like
Right.
this, I heard. So Guillermo del Toro, I guess, was going to produce an English version of this, and the pandemic put a pause
Okay.
on it. But apparently, he's still going to do it.
Okay.
I would really be curious to see it, but I would feel like it would also be like a little, like Ryan Reynolds Amityville, or like I feel like even with Del
Yeah.
Toro doing it, I could see a little bit of cookie cutter coming into it. Like what I think some people could hate about this is like one of the things maybe I liked, and the fact that they didn't explain anything and they didn't feel like they had to.
Right.
Whereas like a lot of the American movies, they over explain shit. Like, you know, the
Yeah.
Insidiouses, even The Conjuring,
Oh
like
yeah.
you have these characters that like have to explain every little thing and give you reasons for things. And that to me just takes away from the experience. This, they didn't. So there were lots of like, what the fuck? Or like, wait, what room are we in? Moments in this, but I liked it because it was kind of a mind fuck.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was
So,
that I agree that some of the good parts were because it was so like, we're just doing this thing. So when you're like, what the fuck? They're like, whatever, we're just rolling with it.
right.
So yeah, an American version could take that away. I mean, it's unique for sure. But yeah, I think I uh trying to choose my words carefully here. The weirdness of it is good. So you want to keep that. So if you make it too consistent, that could take away from it, which would be bad. But I do agree with you also that starting out with such a gruesome scene, it's like that opening scene's gruesome, and then it kind of just gets creepy in the middle with the neighbor, and then until the
Totally.
introduction of the little boy, then it gets like kind of gross and creepy again.
Yeah. I mean,
And
this really started out like, even though I was in a plane, because planes are creepy as fuck, especially now that they turn all the lights down and everyone closes the windows. Like, this movie started out in a way that I was like, oh my God, if I can get freaked the fuck out. Like, because
right.
it started out intense. And on top of it, because I heard about it too from Shudder's like top 100 scary movies or whatever. And I remember being like, man, I never watched it because the cover, if you guys have seen the cover, it just looks like this claymation creature.
Right. It looks like
It
a
looks
typical.
really fucking dumb. It
Yeah.
looks like a CGI, like split in half kind of like, you know, whatever, like albino looking human monster.
Looks like.
And so I just never.
Yeah. It
thought
looks
to
like
do it.
that mid 2010 to like 2015. Oh, I'm a spooky monster in a haunted house kind of CGI bullshit.
Well, kind of. It looks like if you made Gollum big,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what happened in that fucking dumbass movie I watched. Boogeyman.
Yeah.
It looks like that shit. And if you watch that movie, I'm
Disappointed.
sorry for you. And there was another movie we saw that was kind of new, where the end was a girl fighting in a barn and then she burns it down.
Oh, what was that?
What was it? Remember she brings the creature there because it's like her childhood home.
Yeah.
Oh, Smile.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Her house. Yeah. Yeah. It looked like that, or at least the cover did.
It looked like that creature.
Yeah. Or
So,
what was it? Barbarian.
oh yeah.
Very similar.
So if you have anything to do with horror movies and you're listening to this right now, stop making things that look like that.
Yeah.
It's like this kind of I've been living in the shadows, so I'm super pale and like
Deformed.
it's just generic.
Yeah.
It's really fucking dumb. But anyways, I never watched it because that was the cover and it's like really CGI, so I thought it was silly. So I saw that was in the top 100 scary movies. So when I was on the plane, I was like, okay, like fuck it, let's go. And
Let's do
it literally
this.
starts out with like a husband and a wife, and the wife is like hasn't cooked dinner, and the husband's like, why? And she's like, there's voices coming from the sink, and he's just like, yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, the beginning has a very the Dark and the Wicked vibe
like,
to it.
Fucking scary. No,
So-
that's exactly what it was reminding me
Right.
of. I was like, oh my god, has that ominous kind of like ugh, like
Mhm.
um
So I was
thing.
definitely into it. Yeah.
but
But-
and I felt like it kept that through most of it, but definitely the like overnight thing with the professionals was a little
Yeah. That got a little weird. And I'm like, what is going on? Like,
it got a little confusing too.
yeah. Which is, again, I'm totally cool with movies not giving much of an explanation for anything and just doing their thing. But
It didn't bring it back around though. It still never explained some of the shit that happened.
right. And that, like I said, that was my biggest issue with the different storylines and trying to make them fit together. I felt like some things just went away and they never explained. So you're like, well, what happened?
Well, like the one part. So just to like clue you guys in, there's a part where they all the professionals kind of go to a different house to like, do like a ghost watchers kind of shit, or, or just like survey everything and see what happens. And at one point, the main detective leaves the house he's at, and like he sees people get like killed or hurt, and then he goes into the one with the woman, and she's like, "Don't believe everything you see," alluding to like whatever goes on in these houses isn't
Right.
real. But then at the end of the movie, one of the people who died, who got shit like shoved in his eyes, is a fucking like ghost zombie thing with shit shoved in his eyes. So like, why did she say don't believe what you see? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
why throw that in the movie? Because that should actually happen. So
Right.
I don't know. But I did think it was funny when the guy was explaining to his wife how the dog they hit was alive, and she's like, "What do you mean how?" He goes, "It was like Highlander."
Yeah.
And she just looks at him and he's like, "It just rose." And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so that's like that's a
Yeah.
red flag.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, we're kind of on board with this, the didn't likes, the same stuff. Now, I think that'll be an issue for a lot of people if they haven't seen this yet, is it just gets a little confusing. So don't try and follow it too much. Just go along for the ride.
Yeah. You got to think of it as like one of the old 70s or 80s movies that doesn't really explain stuff sometimes and bring it back around, but it's just kind of fun to watch.
Right.
Because there's definitely like plot holes and how they don't explain certain things. But you know what, guys? We don't really know all about the supernatural. So like,
It could be like that sometimes. You never know.
yeah.
So,
exactly.
okay. Well, let's talk about the stuff we did like. You can go first.
I really liked how it started off. I
Mhm.
liked the feeling it gave you. I liked how dark it was, and that even like as this like brutal traumatic stuff was happening, unlike newer movies, that the colors are really bright and the blood is bright and everything is bright. This very much looked like a vintage movie.
Right.
The colors looked real. It was toned down. It looked like what you would be seeing with your own eyes in normal lighting. It didn't look like set lighting.
Right.
and the effects were very practical.
Mhm.
And then I have to say, the zombie kid has to be one of the most effective yet simple ways to create a completely terrifying experience. Like, this thing did nothing other than kind of move once or twice, but the makeup they did on it, the set, the way the cameras were set, everything about that, like, watching it was so hard because you were so prepared for something at all times, yet not at all, that it just was like a really hard thing to watch. And then
Agreed.
especially when they pick it up and throw it in the freezer, and pretty much the second that door closes, it just starts beating on it. Like,
And crying.
yeah, it was so effective. Like, that's like one scene I'd like to see where if Guillermo del Toro produced something, like, even though he wouldn't necessarily have a huge heavy hand, I would hope maybe he would, but I'd like to see how they would redo that, because I don't know that they could do it better.
Yeah,
It
I don't
was
think they
just
could.
really, and you don't really see all the footprints or everything. It's like certain parts of in other scenes, you start seeing more and more footprints. And then when they find the woman who's like the professor, whatever, taking pictures out front, then you see that there's hands and footprints that go all the way up the front of the house and kind of upside down and around, like, without ever having to make this thing move, literally, other than like its head. Like, you are already fucking terrified of this thing.
Right.
You don't know what the fuck it is. Every scene that changes, you're ready for it to be like right behind someone or like doing something crazy, and it never has to at all. And
Right.
it still scares the shit out of you. That isn't like so hard to do.
Yeah. Well, that's was one of like my biggest likes about this movie was that scene and just how simple it was. I mean, the first scene too, like, I liked it coming in with like, just fucking just coming in on 10
Right.
for that first, the first little bit. And then the middle neighbor stuff I could have totally done without. And then when it gets to the kid, I'm like, okay. And I'm watching in that scene because you're waiting for it to move. You're waiting for the kid to move.
Oh, yeah.
And he's
You know what's
not.
going to happen.
Right. You know it
And
is.
it does, but they still don't do a cheap. They aren't cheap with it. They could have like done something so much more shocking, but because they didn't, it was more so.
Yeah. It was just subtle enough. It knocks the milk over and he's just moved a little bit. And that scene just goes on forever. And then,
well, and then with the kid.
Right. And then it cuts back to they're doing like whatever else is going on, and they leave, and his friend comes by the house and sees him in the window and is like, hey. And then that's where you see on camera, he just turns his head, and then, you hear a scream and they come back rushing in and they're like, what the fuck? So
it's so well done.
Yeah. And I wish the movie was more about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get what they were
also
trying to do.
didn't want to like, I think that they knew maybe that would be so impactful that like going on any further with that would just not.
Right.
They wouldn't be able to do that again.
Totally.
And I love that it doesn't really like, I mean, the kid does come back a little bit later, but like, I love that they didn't exhaust that.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a while you're like, okay, so what the fuck's up with the kid?
Right. Right. I got like blue balls from it. I'm like, well, what's the story with the kid? Because they made such a big scene about it, especially when they put him in the cooler and he starts freaking out and crying. And then, that's kind of it. Like, but what about the kid?
I don't know. I think it was so good.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think you could recreate that scene and do it as well.
No. And so I also loved, the creature we told you that's on the front that I thought was lame. In the movie, I didn't think was as lame.
Right.
And I actually appreciated that within the first, I think, 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, they just show it to you. Like,
yeah.
There's no like hints of like a hand popping out or this and that. Like when it comes out, it just fucking comes out. And
Yeah.
once they show it, like it's fucking naked, it's right there, like it's there. Again, like I want to see more stuff that this director does, because if he can continue with this sort of like thing and not going into all the tropes, like I found it a lot more freaky.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he's not really trying to jump scare you. He's showing you exactly what's there, and what's there is like not cool and scary.
Yeah,
And of course, like the woman next to me woke up at one point and was like looking at my laptop and looking at me like, "Are you watching?" And I'm like, "Just look away, lady. Look
go
away."
back to bed, bitch.
Yeah, this isn't for you.
Yeah. Stop looking at me. Yeah, I do appreciate that it did the creepy scenes really well. So I like that about it. And I guess that middle story with the other neighbor was to show the monster, because that's pretty much what happens. That's where you get to see it for the first time, like right away.
Yeah.
And I mean, the gore was cool when the effects were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did a good job with kind of building that suspense in a lot of the creepy scenes. So bravo for that.
Yeah,
So,
it definitely was one of the movies that, like, it reminded me of Barbarian and a lot of movies that have come out recently, and even older movies like House of a Thousand Corpses, where it really feels like the movies are broken into two parts and are two totally different movies.
Right.
And this one definitely had that. The tail end of the movie, there were some things at the end that definitely tied it in, but the whole, like, staying at the house overnight and trying to figure out what was going on. Honestly, a lot happened, but it didn't provide any answers as to what was going on, really.
Right. And
At
then,
least to me, I still don't know exactly what they are or why that happened to that neighborhood. Like,
yeah, they were kind of forced into, like, the ghost hunter people. The ghost team was like kind of forced into it, but then, nothing really happens where you get any sort of answers from that ghost team. They just kind of die.
Right.
Like, I think it would have been more effective if you just had either like one of those three people, or like just the cop, since he made it through, it's just like, all right, just focus on him, or just one of those people trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, versus you bringing this in like poltergeist type team, and then like they're just there for fucking.
There is supposed to be a sequel coming out.
Interesting.
It's apparently more about the lore of whatever the fuck this thing is. Well, because if you remember like the original husband whose wife dies in the shower.
Not the second guy.
He gets taken to jail, and when they approach him and are like, "Hey, we know you didn't do it," and he's like, "How?" They were like, "Look at these pictures," and he's like, "I've seen them," and they're like, "No, this isn't your wife. This is another woman." So, like, there's a story there.
Right.
They just didn't tell it to you.
Oh yeah, and he's like, "I've seen that guy. Did you bring him too?" And they're like, "Who?" And
oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
but that was at the end.
Yeah, it was at the end.
That was a different group of people talking to him.
Right.
That was after all the people died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's like stuff that needs explained.
Yes, there is.
So
we need explanations.
Which now I have to watch the sequel to see what the fuck is going on. So
and read more subtitles.
Well, if it's anything like this movie, I won't have to read much. I can just kind of,
get the gist.
Yeah. As long as I don't miss a scene, then I'll be good. But I mean, I don't know. I definitely see why people would like this movie, because it had some really good stuff in it. So
it was also not very long.
Right.
Which I appreciate.
Unless you had to rewind it like I did a few times. Like, wait, that's not the fucking same guy. What the fuck? Like, okay, here's the scene I missed that makes all sense now. Okay.
All Argentinians don't look alike.
God damn it.
You racist.
Well, that's another thing that confused me, because, I think on Shudder too it said Mexican. Or it might just say, are you sure?
That's Spanish language.
Okay.
I think it said Argentinian, actually. No, it
Or-
definitely didn't say Mexican.
Or maybe it said Spanish, so I just assumed it was Spain or Mexico.
Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I was watching, I'm like, this doesn't look like Mexico, and doesn't really look like Spain either.
No, it doesn't.
Right. And I'm like, where the fuck are they? I'm like, none of these people look
Yeah.
like, I guess they definitely look more Spanish than Mexican. But I'm like, neither of these,
Right.
the scenery doesn't look like either. So what the fuck? And then as we were starting this, getting ready to start, I'm like, oh, that's why. Because they were in Argentina. Sometimes you got to read, kids.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yes, you should read, children. And if you are children, you shouldn't be listening to us.
Right. So let's rate this thing and see how far apart we are.
Oh, it's going to be a stretch, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Sometimes, what was it? Oh yeah, Meg 2. I thought we were going to be like a little farther off, and that was the same. So we surprise each other sometimes.
Really?
Mhm.
Were we?
Yeah.
I guess I blocked it out.
All right. You want to go first?
Nope.
All right. So I'll go first since Juliet doesn't want to, and there's no other options. So I guess I have to go first. So I'm going to give it 1.5 creepy resurrected kid candy corns.
Oh, I'm giving it so much more than that.
I figured I could have given it more, but subtitles, it's already going to be like,
It's so much better than that.
you
can't knock it down just because they didn't dub it.
Oh, yes, I can. And I just did.
That is
And-
totally ridiculous.
Because it was, for me, I wish the story was a little bit more.
You just pissed my dog off. Delilah just got up and she's
She's like, what the fuck?
angry. Yeah.
I wish the story made a little more sense. Like, take out one storyline to kind of make it a little more consistent. I would have liked that a little better. And mostly, the scene with the kid is so impactful that I wish
Yeah,
it was just.
more than 1.5 for that.
That's like all the 1.5. That's all of it right there. I wish it would have focused more on that. But again, I get what they were trying to do. I just wish they didn't as much. So yeah, 1.5 candy corns for me. Juliet's just steaming right now.
No, I'm not. I'm just
she just
thinking
punched
if I
a
should
dead
bump
kid
up
in
my
her
score
yard.
to give. I didn't do anything. I'm just thinking if I should bump up the score to get the average where I want it to be. Doing math in my head. I'm gonna give it a 3.
Okay. I figured that's where you were probably going to land at.
And honestly, if the overnight part was better, I think that this could be up there with Dark and the Wicked for me. It's definitely probably the movie I've enjoyed most since Dark and the Wicked.
Okay.
But the fact that they didn't like fulfill its full potential when that scene with the kid and like a couple of the early on death scenes were so fucking cool bums me out because like
Yeah.
that second half of the movie, man, if it was as good as the first, that would be a movie that I would watch, throughout my lifetime.
Throughout your lifetime. And I completely agree with that. And again, that was my one issue. I'm like, man, those scenes were so cool that I wish I didn't focus on the other
You
stuff.
gave it a 1.5.
Yeah. Well, that's how much it bummed me out. Cause I'm like, I just wish they could have just connected those two and forgotten all the other bullshit. But it just started going off into the weeds and being like, like a lot of foreign horror films. They're just like, what the fuck is going on now? Who are these people and why are they here? What's going to happen with them? Oh, nothing. Well, what the fuck? Get them out of here. But, I can see how people would really like this movie. I could see how people would give it 3 candy corns. So it's not lost on me. It's just not my jam. But averages out to
going to make you happy, I guess. It just
averages out to 2.25
wrong.
candy corns. I definitely think people should see it because I think a lot of people would like it. I just did not like it as much. But it was fun. I mean, visually, it was definitely visually cool. So people will definitely enjoy that. And then there'll probably be a lot of people that are like, what the fuck is going on now?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of these movies that's going to be either like,
It's not for everyone.
yeah, you're either going to like it or you're going to be like, no, which is fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to say it's an acquired taste because I don't know how you'd acquire that taste, but it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah, you're either going to like it or you're not going to like it. I think you're going to be in one camp or the other. But such is life sometimes out here in the simulation, everybody.
Yeah, that.
So anything else to add, Oubliette?
I think that you guys, if you can handle subtitles, should
Yeah.
watch it. And even if you can't, the first half can totally be watched without subtitles and
Yeah.
be effective because it's
Totally.
fucking wackadoo.
Yeah. I definitely think people should see it just for the creepiness and the creepy scenes for sure. Whether you like it or not, hey, that's not my problem or our problem, but definitely check it out. I don't know. By the time this comes out, you will have seen Joe Bob and played at least one show with Tsunami
Mhm.
Bomb. And then
And I just got done playing with them.
you did. That's right.
And I played roulette.
Did you? Oh yeah. I didn't ask you about any of the gambling or anything. Did you win anything?
No.
No.
No, but I have to say I'd never played roulette before. I usually
Tsunami
Don't
Bomb played a
do
show
that.
in Reno, just in case everyone's like, well, where'd you play roulette at?
yes, we did. We rocked against racism.
Yes, you did.
We
And
did.
rouletted against racism.
And we did. There were no Nazis at my roulette table. In fact, yeah, we were playing roulette with many different people of color. We had like a Hawaiian there. There was also, I want to say, a Taiwanese guy. We
Very
made friends
inclusive.
with everybody.
There you
It was
go.
very inclusive. But so what I didn't realize, you can really make your money last for a long time on roulette.
Yeah,
Like it's a harder, I mean, I don't want to say it's hard to lose money because it's not hard to lose money gambling
No.
at all, but it's definitely, if you kind of just statistically play and make sure you're always betting on like either even or odd, black or red on top of your number bets,
hmm
you have a 50% chance of at least getting that money back
right.
or like doubling that money. So we played for a while on like not much money. So it was a lot of fun. It was cool.
Yeah, roulette
And
is.
we went to Circus and I
Ooh.
won a donkey stuffed animal that looks like Eeyore, except for he has glitter eyeshadow and he has a little ascot with his own picture on it. So he's like a super fancy, kind of like stuck up Eeyore, but he's my Chihuahua's toy now.
Just full of himself. Like I have my own,
Super
wearing
full
my
of
own
him. I
picture.
mean, his picture's on his ascot. So
Well, that's
tells
good.
you
Yeah.
everything.
Roulette is definitely my preferred gambling game, just because it's like just so much chance. I'm like, fuck it, let it ride. So, but I've won some money for sure on roulette. I've also lost some money.
Yeah, I want to say Andy walked away up.
Yeah. Anytime I usually play, it's like I either break even. I mean, once in a while I'll be down a little bit, but it's usually not more than like $100. But I've walked away with 500, 600. So my money would last and it's fun.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad you had fun in Reno. And for anyone wondering, she did not shoot a man just to watch him die, unfortunately.
I didn't shoot anybody.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. So check out Terrified if you have not and you want to and don't care about
And
spoilers.
you like subtitles.
And you like subtitles or you like movies that kind of don't make sense but are creepy. This is definitely up your alley for sure. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in again. Next time you see us or hear us, we'll have some stories from the road from Oubliette. She'll have some stories. Hopefully they're good stories or funny stories.
We're playing in Amityville.
See, or you already
And
played
we're
in
playing in
Amityville.
Scranton, and I just heard about an insane haunted house there on a podcast I listened to. So
you guys gonna have enough time to maybe swing by it.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
Scranton ranks #1 in real life haunted houses. Sorry.
Ooh.
Yeah. If you look up the Smurl haunting, that's the Scranton one.
All
I
right.
just listened to a 2-part podcast on it, oddly enough. And then when they said it was near Scranton, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm about to be there. Might as well go see if those demons are still up in there. Ed and Lorraine Warren said there's six ghosts and a demon in there. So
Well,
certainly they're still there.
Hopefully Oobzilla will make contact and have some news to tell us about the Smurl hauntings.
Got my EVP recorder in my backpack. Yeah, this Smurl haunting, the ghost or the demon fucked them all, like
Ooh.
including the kids.
Well, he knows how to party.
Yep.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in on this episode of Monster Candy Podcast, and check us out next time. Deuces.
Bye.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Sweet.
Like scary movies.
Want some candy?
looks that big old storm right square in the eye and he says, "Get away from her, you bitch!"
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Your move, creep.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.